Okay, welcome back for part 2. First we have another crest. Horror now finally got its crest as well, so not much else to say here. And then we have Linebreaker's Shield. That's kind of a cool card actually. For 2 power we get +2/+2 in endurance, so that's already a pretty decent deal. And with Spellcraft we get to play a Shield Bash, which normally isn't that great of a card, but if it costs 3 and comes for free, it's pretty nice since it lets us stun an enemy unit, gain 2 armor, which can be better than 2 health if we play some relic weapons, and draw a card, turning this basically into a 5 cost +2/+2 endurance weapon that stuns something, gains us some health, and draws a card, which is a pretty decent deal. It's fairly expensive, so in Constructed it will likely not quite make it, unless you have a way to get around the Spellcraft with the 1/3 Berserk guy, 1/4 3-drop Berserk guy, or girl rather, I forgot her name, that lets you Spellcraft for free. And in Limited is a powerhouse though, so pretty amazing card. Next we have Long Live the Queen. I think this card's unfortunately pretty bad, since reactive cards with warp make the warp pretty bad. Negating an enemy spell is a very narrow effect. Costing 4 to do so is even worse, since a lot of spells that you can negate cost a lot less. And the fact that you draw a card just doesn't make up for it. And living the dream of like getting a 3/1 here is still so situational and not even that great. Card's really bad, even in Limited if you ask me. Then we have Unfinished Business, another pretty bad card unfortunately. So give one of your units +5/+5, sacrifice it at the end of the turn or when it deals damage. It's not even a fast spell, so no trick potential here, not a whole lot to like abuse this really. It's just a terrible card in both formats really. I don't get this card, it's just useless. Next we have Knight of Sorrow, a 5 cost 4/4 lifesteal paladin, so relevant tribe potentially. And on tribute it becomes a 6/6. So in Constructed this is a bit too vanilla and weak, but in Limited this is a powerhouse. This is an incredibly powerful 5-drop. You can often tribute it, and if you tribute this out as a 5 cost 6/6 lifesteal, this is going to dominate the board and make it really hard for the opponent to raise. So yeah, great pickup. Then we have Crunch the Hoarder, another cool new card. It's a 3/3 for 3 with Overwhelm and a pretty good infiltrate. Not as good as Gorgon Fanatic, but close. Get to draw 2 cards, then discard a card, and if you discard a spell or attachment, he even gets Berserk, so that on consecutive Haunting Screams he hits for 6 while drawing you 1 extra card effectively. So a pretty nice addition to Felnscar Scream decks, like the one that I built some time ago. And in Limited this is also a pretty good 3-drop, and there might even be other things you can do with it in Constructed than Scream. Next we have Bloodthirsty Brawler, not a Constructed card at all, but a pretty good Limited card. A 5 cost 4/6 Berserk Overwhelm is nothing to sneeze at, so great 5-drop for Skycrag based Limited decks. Then we have Krill, Merciless Pillager, basically very poor man's Icaria. You get a 7 cost 5/5, on summon you kill all attachments, and Krill gets a random battle skill for each attachment she killed. That also means she also kills your own permafrosts, so even a pretty 2-edged sword. Completely unplayable in Constructed really, and in Limited might be okay, but even there a 7 cost 5/5 that needs to hit probably multiple attachments to be a decent unit is not impressive. Like, I would probably not even put her in my Limited deck. Next we have Rindra's Choice, by far the best, and if you ask me, the only good choice in the set, but this one is really good. Killing an enemy unit with more than one faction is really nice. There's a bunch of great targets. Heart of the Vault, Seraph, to name a few. Champion of Cunning, Harbinger, Rindra, ironically, Champion of Glory, Icaria, Rizan, Tavrot, Statuary Maiden, Whirling Duo, various other champions like Champion of Fury, Vadius, and so on and so forth. Like, most decks have a bunch of good targets for this. False Prince, yada yada. So there's like most of the like best units in the game are multi-faction, and this kills all of them at fast speed for 2, which is great. And as a bonus, we sometimes get to negate an enemy spell with more than one faction. Some of the critical spells you want to stop are single faction, so it's gonna be kind of low utility here, but still countering like a Rise to the Challenge or Slay or something like that can still be really good. So it's a nice extra utility latched onto it, and the fact that it has 2 factions also makes for a great market card. And in limited, this is just a great removal. Then we have Ancient of the Ice Caves. A pretty bad card, unfortunately. I think I constructed this pretty useless. It's a 4-cost 4/4 with Overwhelm, which is ironically very underwhelming. And a bad ultimate. Pay 8 to make each player discard their hand and draw 8 cards. 8 is a lot, and a symmetric effect like that your opponent gets to use first because you pay 8 to activate the effect and then pass the turn, and then the opponent has all their power to play all their fresh cards. Does not seem like a winning strategy. In limited though, a 4-cost 4/4, even with restrictive influence, is going to be a good pickup in Feln for sure. Then we have Stone Scar Pickaxe, 4-cost +4/+2 weapon that on hit creates a 1/1 Grenadin, so nothing impressive, nothing to write home about. For 7, you also, if you play it for 7, you also get to Quarry, which is nice, but it's also very expensive and not something for constructed. But in limited, this seems like a decent weapon, because you might get the spellcraft a fair share of the time, and putting this on a flyer can be really nice. So it's a decent card, not a great card, I think, though. And last but not least, for the second part of the review, we have Jack's Choice. A decent choice, but not great for constructed, 5-cost removal. Not really where you want to be, but in limited this seems pretty great. Either putting a 1/1 weapon on each of your attacking units at fast speed as a trick, or killing an enemy unit that's not wielding a weapon. Both seem like pretty powerful effects in a limited deck, so great pickup for limited for sure. Okay, that's it for part 2 of the multi-faction and colorless review. We have one more part to go, so don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for the rest of the multi-faction cards and the factionless cards in a moment.